Welcome, everyone, to Wisdom and Wealth, the channel dedicated to helping you navigate life's complexities with wisdom and grace, especially if you're over 40. Today, we're diving into a fascinating concept, the power of letting go. It's not about apathy or giving up, but about releasing the tight grip we have on things that cause us stress and anxiety. It's about finding peace by trusting the flow of life, even when it feels chaotic. If you're new here and this resonates with you, please consider subscribing to Wisdom and Wealth for more insights on building a more fulfilling and peaceful life. There's a curious phenomenon that occurs when you finally cease clinging so tightly to things. It's not about carelessly abandoning everything, but rather a quiet, soul-liberating experience that detaches you from the unseen bonds of pressure, fear, and the need for constant control. Here's the profound truth many of us discover later in life. A significant portion of the pain we experience isn't caused by the events themselves, but by how fiercely we hold on to them. Remember, you only lose what you cling to. The job you're desperately trying to secure, the relationship you're fighting to maintain, the identity you're fiercely protecting, they can drain you because you've unconsciously tied them to your very survival. But what if letting go wasn't a sign of weakness, but a demonstration of profound wisdom? What if it's precisely when you release your grip that everything finally falls into its rightful place? If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right and yet still feel stuck, anxious, or invisible, this message is especially for you. Stick around because we have a bonus lesson at the end that might just challenge everything you thought you understood. If you find value in what we share, give us a like and subscribe to Wisdom and Wealth. We're here to help you find more peace and prosperity in your life. The first key idea we want to explore is the illusion of control and why letting go works. Have you ever considered that your relentless effort to control every aspect of your life might be the very thing making it so difficult? We spend our days mentally clenching, desperately gripping onto desired outcomes, people, and plans, hoping that if we just hold on tight enough, life won't fall apart. But here's the paradox: the tighter you grip sand in your hand, the faster it slips through your fingers. The sensation of control offers a false sense of security and predictability, but in reality, it's the ego's most convincing deception. Let go or be dragged is more than just a saying. It's a crucial instruction for navigating life successfully. Because the reality is that control doesn't grant you freedom, it breeds fear. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of not being enough unless everything unfolds precisely as planned. In Buddhist teachings, there's a principle known as non-attachment. This doesn't imply apathy or disinterest. It means allowing life to flow without tethering it to your rigid expectations. You don't truly own this present moment. You're merely here to experience it. And the more you try to force it into a predetermined shape, the more it resists you. Now is the time to subscribe to Wisdom and Wealth. You don't want to miss our future videos. Think about your own life for a moment. How much energy have you expended overthinking, micromanaging, clinging to relationships that were already fading, or worrying about events that hadn't even happened yet? And did it bring you peace? More likely, it created more pressure and anxiety. Now, imagine this: for just one day, you consciously stop interfering. You refrain from trying to control every single detail. Instead of obsessively planning the perfect day, you simply breathe, observe, and respond, not react, but respond, with calmness rather than control. Ask yourself, what am I truly afraid will happen if I let go right now? More often than not, the answer isn't a genuine threat, but simply discomfort. And discomfort is often the doorway to growth. The job you didn't get might not have been meant for your path. The relationship that ended may have been a chapter, not your final destination. Life is constantly attempting to guide you, but we're often too busy resisting to even hear its whispers. When you truly let go, things don't necessarily fall apart. They often fall into place, though not always in the way you initially envisioned. But frequently, they fall into the place you truly needed to be. Because surrender isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of profound wisdom. It's the strength to trust the flow of life rather than constantly fighting against the current. Take a moment. If you have enjoyed this information, please like, share and consider subscribing to our channel. Now, here's a practical exercise for you. The next time you feel yourself mentally tightening, stop, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this worth the emotional weight I'm carrying? Then, consciously loosen your grip. Allow things to unfold. Trust the process. Observe what happens when you cease trying to micromanage every second of your life. A wise monk once said, "Peace is not found in a place without noise, trouble, or hard work. It is found in the midst of those things when the mind is calm." That inner calm doesn't arise from control. It comes from trust. What if letting go is the key to finally discovering the peace you've been searching for? What if the version of yourself you're desperately trying to force into being isn't the one you're truly meant to become? And what if surrender is the most empowering move you'll ever make? Remember this: if you want to soar in the sky, you need to leave the earth. If you want to move forward, you need to release the past that's holding you back. Let go. Let life meet you where you are, and watch what falls into place. The second key concept we want to explore today is the paradox of detachment, how it actually makes you more powerful. What if the very thing you're clinging to is what's ultimately holding you back from achieving your full potential? We inhabit a world obsessed with outcomes, constantly chasing goals, seeking validation, and measuring success in quantifiable terms. But the tighter we pull on the string, the more altitude we lose. A kite doesn't ascend by force. It rises when released into the wind. That's the core paradox of detachment. The moment you cease desperately needing something, you paradoxically begin to attract it. To consciously let go is to gain control in a completely different and more effective way. It might sound counterintuitive, but it aligns deeply with the core principles of Buddhist wisdom. If you like this content, please subscribe. We have many more similar videos for you to watch. Detachment isn't about simply giving up or becoming apathetic. It's about showing up fully, mindfully, and without the pervasive fear of what might happen next. When you're detached, you're not disconnected from life. You're simply no longer imprisoned by the insatiable craving for control. In Buddhist thought, attachment is considered the root of suffering. This isn't because wanting something is inherently wrong, but because needing it to define your very existence is. Detachment, then, is not about apathy or indifference. It's about freedom. It's about acting from a place of clarity rather than desperation, from truth rather than fear. Think about your own journey for a moment. Perhaps you've poured everything you have into a particular career move, a significant relationship, or a long-held dream. And the more you tried to force it, the more it seemed to slip away. You stayed up late at night, obsessing over potential outcomes. You replayed conversations in your head, reworked plans repeatedly, and redoubled your efforts. But instead of finding peace and satisfaction, you felt an increasing sense of pressure. Instead of gaining clarity, you experienced confusion and uncertainty. Why? Because your true power doesn't originate from the tightness of your grip. It emanates from your presence, your ability to be fully engaged in the moment without attachment to a specific outcome. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging to a desired result. If you are getting something from this channel, please like and consider subscribing. You shift your focus from, "Will this work?" to, "Is this true for me?" That one simple question changes everything because you're no longer reacting out of fear of failure. You're responding from a place of alignment with your core values. Now, here's a practical exercise: set your intentions clearly, but release the need for a specific outcome. Speak with honesty and authenticity, not with manipulation or hidden agendas. Show up to your work, your relationships, and your dreams, not with rigid expectations, but with heartfelt sincerity. And then, consciously step back. Trust that what's truly meant for you will unfold in its own time and way. Meditate on the principle of impermanence. Observe your thoughts and emotions as they rise and fall, like waves on the ocean. Nothing stays the same, not even pain. The moment you truly grasp this fundamental truth, you begin to live with a lighter heart. You begin to move with the flow of life, rather than constantly struggling against it. Ask yourself honestly, am I pushing too hard for something that should be unfolding naturally? Often, what we try to force ultimately fails, while what we allow to happen organically thrives. It's not a sign of weakness to surrender to the natural flow of life. It's an act of wisdom. It's the understanding that control is ultimately an illusion, but your inner presence is a source of genuine power. What have you truly gained by clinging too tightly to things in your life? More peace or more pain? Greater clarity or increased chaos? And what if, just what if, letting go is actually the shortcut to everything you've been chasing so relentlessly? Remember, a seed doesn't bloom simply because you scream at it to grow. It flourishes when you give it space and the right conditions. Detachment doesn't disconnect you from life. It positions you for true power, the kind that flows from authenticity and inner peace, not from anxiety and fear. So, stop gripping so tightly. Loosen your grip on the string. Let your kite rise freely into the sky. Let go of your need for control and let life lift you to new heights. We would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe to support us. The third point to remember is how overthinking repels what you actually desire in life. You might believe you're being productive by endlessly analyzing situations, but in reality, you're simply stuck in your head, spinning in circles. Overthinking often disguises itself as problem-solving. It promises clarity, but it usually delivers more chaos and confusion. It's like stirring muddy water. The more you stir your thoughts, the cloudier everything becomes. A pond naturally clears itself when you stop disturbing it. And so does your mind. In silence, everything becomes clearer. But silence often frightens us. Stillness can feel like failure in a world that's addicted to the constant hustle. So, we obsess, replay events, forecast potential outcomes, and endlessly analyze, convinced that just one more thought will unlock the answer we're seeking. But it rarely does, because overthinking doesn't stem from wisdom. It arises from fear. In Buddhism, the monkey mind is a term used to describe our restless, constantly jumping thoughts. Always grabbing, always fearing, always doubting. The mind attempts to regain control through excessive thought. But genuine clarity doesn't emerge from more noise. It arises when the mental noise finally fades away. Don't forget to subscribe to Wisdom and Wealth. This is the best way to keep up to date with our uploads. Have you ever noticed that the answers you're seeking often come not while you're actively thinking, but when you finally stop trying so hard, in the shower, while on a walk, or during a quiet moment of surrender? That's because you've created space, and that space has allowed wisdom to rise to the surface. We all yearn for peace, but we often try to think our way to it. And that's the trap. Peace isn't something you chase. It's what remains when you stop chasing. Now, here's a practical exercise. The next time your thoughts start to spiral out of control, don't dive deeper into the spiral. Interrupt the pattern. Close your eyes gently. Inhale peace. Exhale the story you're telling yourself. One breath, fully taken, can often achieve more than 100 frantic thoughts. Ask yourself, am I genuinely thinking, or am I avoiding something? There's a subtle but crucial difference. Sometimes, thinking becomes a shield, a way to avoid feeling uncomfortable emotions, making a difficult decision, or facing the unknown. But life moves forward when you move, not when you overanalyze every single turn. Set clear boundaries with your thoughts. If you're stuck on a decision, give yourself a firm deadline. Don't let the indecision bleed into paralysis. Clarity thrives on decisiveness, even if it's imperfect. Even a small action can disrupt the endless mental loop. Trust in simplicity. That quiet gut feeling you keep brushing aside isn't a sign of weakness. It's a whisper of wisdom, but you can't hear it while your overthinking shouts over it. What would happen if you stopped trying to fix everything with your mind and just started feeling, feeling the discomfort, feeling the fear, allowing it to pass through you like a wave instead of trying to control it with logic. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Not in apathy, but in awareness, in presence. Because the moment you stop resisting the present moment, it begins to speak to you, and that's where genuine guidance resides. Ask yourself, are my thoughts helping me, or are they holding me hostage? Remember this, your mind is a valuable tool, but it's not your master. And tools only work effectively when you learn when to put them down. So, stop stirring up the mud. Let the pond clear. Let silence rise. And you might just find that everything you've been seeking has been waiting there beneath the noise the whole time. Peace isn't out there. It's what's left when you let go of the noise within. Before moving on, please hit the like button, it helps us with the algorithm. Let's move on to our fourth point, why caring too much can backfire. Sometimes, we care so deeply that we inadvertently crush the very thing we're trying to protect. We smother our dreams with perfectionism, suffocate our relationships with unrealistic expectations, and sacrifice our own peace of mind under the weight of constant pressure. It often feels noble, this deep caring, but it can frequently be fear in disguise. The fear of losing control, the fear of not being enough, the fear of not being loved unless we constantly prove our worth. But just like a flame, love and purpose can only grow when they have enough air to breathe. Caring deeply doesn't mean clinging desperately. You've probably felt it yourself, the heavy weight of trying to hold everything together for everyone, all the time. You say yes when you're completely exhausted. You try to manage other people's emotions. You take responsibility for problems that were never yours to fix in the first place. It feels like compassion, but it's actually over-responsibility, and that doesn't lead to genuine connection. It leads to burnout. In Buddhism, loving kindness isn't about control. It's about presence, being with someone, or even with yourself, without trying to fix, force, or manage. It's about letting people breathe and letting life unfold naturally. When you truly care, you create space, and in that space, growth can happen. What do you think of the content here? Please consider subscribing. Ask yourself, am I trying to be everything for everyone? It's not your job to be the healer, the pleaser, or the perfect one. That's the ego dressed up as service. Real compassion begins when you allow people to live their own journeys, even when it's messy, even when it's not how you would choose for them. Let go of the need to be understood all the time. Release the need to control how someone sees you. When your sense of worth is tied to external validation, your caring becomes conditional, subtle but heavy, and that's not love. That's fear pretending to be love. Reframe caring as presence. Sit with someone without offering unsolicited advice. Offer support without immediately trying to solve their problems. Allow yourself to rest without feeling guilty. Care for yourself not because you're trying to become better, but because you're already inherently worthy of care. Release anxious attachment, the constant checking, the fear of being forgotten, the obsessive overthinking after every conversation. That's not intuition. It's insecurity, and that insecurity will sabotage your peace if you don't meet it with awareness. What would happen if you stopped trying to manage everything? If you trusted that people could survive without your constant intervention, that situations could resolve themselves without your need to control them? You'd be lighter, freer, and ironically, your relationships would likely deepen because they'd be built on trust, not tension. Not everything is yours to carry. You're allowed to care without controlling, to love without losing yourself, to give without grasping. Before we continue to the fifth lesson, we need to ask that you consider subscribing and telling your friends about our channel. Are you truly caring, or are you managing others with good intentions? This is an invitation to stop trying so hard. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You don't need to overgive to be valuable. Let the flame of love breathe. Let your soul breathe. Let go not because you don't care, but because you finally understand what real caring truly looks like. And when you do, everything peace, clarity, genuine connection, begins to fall into its rightful place. We hope this resonates with you and will bring you closer to the Buddha's enlightenment. Fifth point, what happens when you stop seeking validation from others? You weren't born to be universally approved of. You were born to be authentic, to express your true self. But somewhere along the way, external applause became like oxygen. The likes, the praise, the nods of approval, they started to feel like concrete proof that you're enough. And slowly, without even realizing it, your inner peace became tethered to someone else's fleeting opinion. But here's a fundamental truth: a mountain doesn't need anyone's approval to stand tall. It simply stands, unmoved, unshaken, whole. The constant chase for external validation is a silent but incredibly exhausting pursuit. You might try to dress it up as ambition, as being driven, but if your sense of self-worth crumbles when someone disapproves of you, that's not drive. That's dependence, and it's preventing you from accessing your full power. Because when you live for external applause, you become a performer in your own life, constantly asking yourself, was that good enough? Do they like me? But validation is a moving target. It changes with trends, with fleeting moods, with other people's projections. How can you build a stable and meaningful life on such shaky ground? Are we bringing you value? Please consider subscribing. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that true freedom comes not from being liked by everyone, but from being real, from expressing your authentic self. When you release the insatiable craving for external approval, something sacred happens. You begin to hear your own inner voice again. You start living in alignment with your own values, not in constant performance for an audience. You do things not for external recognition, but because they resonate as true for you. Ask yourself, who am I when no one's watching? If no one clapped, if no one even noticed, would you still do what you love? Would you still speak your truth? Would you still show up and be yourself? You are inherently enough, even without applause. You are valid, even in silence. And that's the profound shift. When you stop outsourcing your sense of worth to others, you stop living in constant fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of becoming invisible. And in that fearlessly authentic space, creativity flows, courage rises, and a deep sense of purpose returns. Try this each day. Validate yourself, not with ego-driven pride, but with genuine self-compassion and truth. Name 3 things you did well today, just for you. Maybe you showed up despite your fear. Maybe you set a healthy boundary. Maybe you allowed yourself to rest without feeling guilty. Let those moments be enough. If so, hit the like button and we will make more like it. And the next time someone praises or criticizes you, observe it without clinging to it. Don't let it define you. Praise and criticism are simply weather patterns. They pass. Your essence doesn't change because of them. Step into solitude, not loneliness, solitude, the sacred space where no one else's opinion echoes. That's where the real you is waiting, the one who knows what to do, the one who doesn't need anyone's permission to breathe freely. So ask yourself honestly, am I living for applause, or am I living in alignment with my true self? Because if you're chasing applause, you'll always feel like you're falling behind. But if you're living in alignment, even your silence will resonate with quiet power. Let go of the need to be seen by everyone, and you'll finally be able to see yourself. Not as a version shaped by other people's expectations, but as the unshakable mountain you've always been, quietly powerful, and completely enough. Subscribe for the next lesson.